You know, you mentioned politics there and politicians, and I remember the very first time you were on the show, 6.5 years ago, Graham, you said that I believe anyone running for presidents should have multiple ayahuasca ceremonies.
I think at least a dozen. Yeah.
A dozen.
Yeah.
And I remember that was such a powerful thing you said, and I asked you why. And it's interesting how all of this kind of comes full circle. So you're talking about things that happened 12,000 years ago, 30,000, 130,000 years ago, and yet it has ramifications of what we do today. You are no stranger to the spirit world and the plant medicine world, and it's another fascinating part of who you are, that you would have this almost strangely parallel journey where you wrote nonfiction and fiction about the plant medicine experience. What did you mean by that, when the politicians should drink that? Because this is a whole part of your message.
Yeah. Well, specifically with ayahuasca, which I've had a lot of experience with over the last sort of 15 years or so, one of the universal effects of ayahuasca, it's very rare for this effect not to happen. If you're prepared to persist with it, it might not happen on your first night, but if you work with ayahuasca over a period of a couple of weeks, that's why I say a dozen ceremonies would be the minimum. One of the things it leads you to do is to look back on the whole course of your own life in depth, and why you did certain things, and why you said certain things, and what your motives were and your reasons for doing things. And you suddenly find that you're not that shining hero that you thought you were. You're really not a very nice person at all. Ayahuasca shows you that right in your face. It's not like something you read in a book. It's a direct experience of who you actually are. And that's an incredible gift, because if who you actually are is not a very nice person, there for the first moment you have the opportunity to change that. You have you've been shown the truth about yourself, and you can either ignore it or you can work with it. And what I find with ayahuasca overwhelmingly for people all around the world is they don't ignore it. They do work with it. They do try to incorporate those lessons they've learned. So I think it would be very hard for a politician, a head of state, to behave in the way that heads of state typically behave, riding roughshod over other people's rights and interests. I think it would be very hard for them to do that after a dozen sessions of ayahuasca, because they would be really questioning their own immortal destiny. What happens to me at the end of this? You know, when I come to the end of my life and I look back on it, am I going to look back and think, by and large, yeah, he was weak, he had problems, but by and large, that was a person who did good things? Or am I going to come to at the end of it and think, by and large, I was a complete piece of shit all the way through my life and I made other people miserable? Ayahuasca brings that to the front, and it gives you the chance not to be that piece of shit. It gives you the chance to make the choice to live life in a different way. And that's why I would like to see it, I would like to see it inside all leading politicians.
And I think you said once that most of them would probably decide not to run for politics because they might see that it was an egoic pursuit and not a service.
Yes, I suspect that most would not want to run for politics after that.
Imagine the White House ceremonies that would happen.
The White House ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Might see it in our lifetime.
We might.
Stranger things.
Yeah.